My name is Martin Vigo. I'm a senior product security engineer at Salesforce, but the most important is we are leading the CTF with the Spanish crew right there. Yes. They call us cocky. I don't know why, but yeah. So the Apple Call Relay Protocol. So this is basically a feature that was announced, I think, in iOS 8, if I remember correctly, at WWDC 2013, I think. And basically what it is a new feature in which you can make calls from your computer or iPads, and the call will be relayed through the iPhone. So this is not the typical voice over IP. It's literally, it uses the iPhone to actually get the call out. So does anyone use it here? Has it ever used before, that making a call from a MacBook Pro or receiving a call? Nice. Okay, so when this was announced, I was super interested, right? Because this is calls going on, you have to be on the same Wi-Fi. So the first thing I did, I went to check out the white paper from Apple, and I was surprised because they usually do a very good job at explaining the technicalities of all the security features that they have. I love that they do that. But in this case, there was only saying, like, upon answering the call, the audio will be seamlessly transmitted from your iPhone using a secure peer-to-peer connection between the two devices. And this is our nature, right? When someone tells us that it's something secure, but it doesn't say anything else, then we go and look if that's actually true. So we want to understand how actually this call relay works. So basically, this is pretty much it. This is the example of me taking my MacBook Pro and making a call or making an external call. So again, the devices need to be on the same Wi-Fi. That means the iPhone needs to be on the same Wi-Fi as my MacBook Pro, for example. I'm going to use the MacBook Pro as an example. So what will happen is when I make a call, my MacBook Pro is going to send a push notification to Apple saying, hey, I want to make a call. And then Apple will send down a push notification to the iPhone saying, hey, a MacBook Pro wants to make a call. And then on the local network, the iPhone will try to locate with the internal IP my MacBook Pro, and they exchange some information, and then the call is relayed. So now, basically, my audio goes from the MacBook Pro through the local network to the iPhone and out to the tower. Same thing for if I receive a call, right? Just the other way around. All right. So basically what we have here is three scenarios, right? We have the GSM part, which is the call that the iPhone needs to receive. Then we have the internet part, which is the iPhone and the MacBook Pro talking to Apple servers to send those push notifications I mentioned before. And then we have the part of the local network, which is the iPhone talking to the MacBook Pro itself to actually transmit the audio. So in reality, what we see here is that we have three possible targets. On the right side, we have the GSM, but that will imply, I mean, if I will focus on that, that will imply that I have to somehow break GSM. It's a standard protocol. So I can use a fake tower and all that stuff, but I leave that to the government. That's not what I want to do. So I can focus also on the internet part. But that in reality, what it means is I will have to break TLS. And because it's a persistent connection, crypto channel, they use cert pinning. So I leave that to the crypto gurus in this case. So I'm just left with the local network part. And this is the interesting scenario because first of all, is where the audio gets transmitted as well in this case. It's over UDP, it's connectionless, very, very good for fuzzing, but also there is already multiple attack vectors that I can take advantage of. So this is really good. And also they use UDP, but I don't know if they use a proprietary protocol to transmit those audio and negotiate the calls. So that is definitely the attack surface we're going to be focused on. Okay, so next step is reversing the protocol. So this is a 20 minutes talk. I really tried to condense, so I'm going to be very fast over this because I want to get to the demos and the interesting part. But please feel free to reach out to me and we can discuss it, having a beer at the pool. But yeah, I'm going to go super fast. So this is basically, I went and this is a network trace of the first packet that is sent from my MacBook Pro to the iPhone. So this is me making a call. From my MacBook Pro, and this is the first packet that is sent to the iPhone, right? And this is for 4 different calls. So basically, I initiated 4 different calls because I wanted to look for patterns. What changes between calls that are from the same Apple ID, but it's different calls, right? And very, very quickly over it, we already can identify the header because it doesn't change in that very first packet for 4 different calls. It's static. Then we have a second part, which is 12 bytes that they change among every call. So that gives us a hint. It could be maybe an ID for the call or an ID for the user. We don't know yet. Then we have a static field there that may be separating two dynamic fields. It could be a separator. We have 16 bits that usually could be a checksum, but from the tests I did, it's actually a timestamp of when every packet is being sent, because what I did is I blocked the traffic with my firewall, so the MacBook Pro was trying to reach to the iPhone, but it was not happening. I did some correlations, so that's a timestamp there. And then we have a null terminating payload, like in C strings, which is interesting because we could try to remove that and try like buffer overflows attack and things like that. So, but this is all manual labor, so I use NetSop. It's a really cool tool. It gives you basically a really highlight and overview of the protocol, which is really good. And we already can identify 3 different headers that is being used. You guys see that on the right side. So this is the first 2 packets. So I mentioned before the first packet, right? I make a call and my MacBook Pro sends a packet to the iPhone. Now this is that packet plus the iPhone responding. And the interesting part here is we see that one of the bytes changes, which is kind of identifying the sing and act, right? The MacBook Pro says, hey, iPhone, where are you? And the iPhone says, oh, I'm here, by changing one of the bytes. So what do we effectively have here? We basically identified what I called the discovery phase. This is the MacBook Pro trying to make a call and finding in the local network the iPhone. And the iPhone responding with a changed byte saying, yes, I'm here, I acknowledge that. So moving on, super fast again. These are the next 2 packets. That means packet 3 and packet 4. We looked at packet 1 and packet 2. So this is, again, the MacBook Pro reaching again to the iPhone and the iPhone responding. And the interesting part that I found here was in the field 9, that is stream of bytes. And what caught my attention was that it is in the printable range. So what I did is I used the string format, and we see a classic UUID used in iOS all over the place. So this is interesting for several reasons. First of all, we have a new identifier, but it's also the first proof of unencrypted text in the protocol. That doesn't mean that the protocol is broken or anything like that, but this is interesting because we can try a lot of fuzzing and tampering here and see what we can do with that. So what we have here is what I call the identification phase. Once the MacBook Pro discovered what the iPhone is, they identify each other with this UUID. It could also be a routing for the routing information for the call. So the next thing I looked at, once that first type of header, the 0F00, is for the first 4 packets, the header changes to 200, 400. So I looked into that, and here I found a couple of things interesting. First, they agree on a counter, so the iPhone sends 4 bytes with 4 random bytes, and another payload, the next 4 bytes are nullified. The iPhone responds with new 4 bytes, and again, those 4 bytes after nullified. And then the communication will put those together, and now they basically agreed on a counter, and it increases from there on. So basically, this is the MacBook Pro and the iPhone agreeing on a type of counter or syncing on it and using it. We also see that there is another field that kind of identifies in this type of header the type of packet that is being sent on the other field. Cool. So we have here the phase that I call the negotiation call, right, where they negotiate the call. They agree on this counter in order to sync up. So next, we have, I mentioned there is 3 headers. We looked at the first 2 types of headers, and the third header is E0, or E000. And this is the important one because here is where the voice payload is present, which is the right field, the one in blue. We can also see that they try to sync UDP by using actually a decimal counter, so I changed the format there. So that's how they sync the packets in UDP. But yeah, this is what I was really interested on. And I try a bunch of things here, flip bidding, stuff like that. It looks is encrypted, so there was not much I can do there. But basically now we identified all the phases, right? We have the discovery, the identification, where they negotiate the call, and the actual sound being transmitted. Cool, we have now a very, very fast overview of how the protocol works. Again, there is a lot of stuff I just don't have time to cover, so I'm just gonna keep going, but please feel free to reach out. So the first thing I did was, okay, I'm going to implement the protocol myself so I can start to do some fuzzing, some attacks, see how it works, and if I really understood it. I could successfully impersonate the iPhone and the MacBook Pro and did some stuff there. Check out my repository if you want to play yourself with it. I didn't upload it yet, but I will tonight or tomorrow, but I will at some point. So next, so now we come to the interesting stuff, which is when we break it. On the right, you see everything I failed at, so I'm not gonna go into the details there. But on the left side is what I was able to do. I was able to DOS call, so basically prevent people from making or receiving calls. I was able to spy on victims by leaving their mics open, which is what is really interesting here. And I was also able to impersonate callers on multi-party calls, which this protocol supports. So the DOS calls, in reality, I mean, what we are talking about, we are talking on the same Wi-Fi, right? So I need to have a man in the middle over UDP, which doesn't imply any user interaction or any certificates or anything like that. So that's pretty easy. But I could, if I have a man in the middle, I could just stop the network traffic, right? And it will just stop the call for the victim. But what I wanted to find is a packet that I can just send from anywhere, or just a silver bullet packet that I could send, and it will actually stop the call. And I did. So what I was trying to do is, once I identified those faces, that's why that was important, is what will happen if during a call or while the phone is ringing, I send a packet that is the packet of the negotiation phase. So basically skipping the discovery phase. And I saw that it will interrupt the call immediately. But at the same time, I was using bytes that were specific to the call. And I don't want to have to have a man in the middle, because if not, I can just interrupt the packet. So I needed to find a packet that works for everyone on any call, right? So I started to nullify all the bytes, and the only thing you have to respect is the header, which is always the same for everyone, and the identifier of the packet, which is also the same for everyone. So this means that if you send this packet, you can actually flood someone, and they will not be able to receive calls or make calls from their MacBook Pros. Cool. That was interesting, but what I really wanted at is I wanted to be able to do something more interesting than just trolling people, basically. So, and the truth is, I could not eavesdrop calls because it was encrypted. I could not inject voice data. I tried that didn't work. I could not reply voice data either. I could not redirect voice data. I tried to send it to another iPhone just to see if I could do something there. And basically, encryption was screwing me over, right? And so I was looking at things that I could do, and I came up with the... while looking at it, I hit this Nosysmurf, which is basically an NSA program, basically that they have to spy. You guys are probably familiar with it, to open mics remotely on Android and iOS, right? So I was wondering, could I do something similar? And the truth is, Ali Shamir already mentioned that I shouldn't be trying to break cryptography. I should try to bypass it. So I started to think of ways like, how could I come around that and actually still be able to do something interesting? And so I thought about the hanging up. So what happens when you hang up on the MacBook Pro? I made a call, finished the call, I click a hang up. And so I look at the network trace, and I see that nothing really happens. When I look at the packets, it's the voice. I know all the faces, so I know it's sending the voice payloads. I click, and just the traffic stops. So I don't really see a message that is sent from the MacBook Pro to the iPhone to tell the iPhone, hey, I just hanged up. So I was wondering what's going on, right? And my problem was really that I was focusing on a very narrow area, which is the local network. But sometimes you need to take a step back, and you need to look at the bigger picture. So what I did is I included the traffic to the Apple push notification server in my stack trace. And that's exactly what I did here. And what you see here is the moment where I hang up. And I don't know if you can notice on the colors, but suddenly when I hang up, there is actually a couple packets sent to Apple. And this is very interesting, because what is really happening? The way Apple implemented this protocol is when you hang up, the hang up message that is transmitted from the MacBook Pro to the iPhone is sent over the Apple push notification server. So basically, I'm calling, everything happens local network, and on the UI in my MacBook Pro, I say hang up. Then my MacBook Pro will send an Apple push notification server, hey, I want to hang up. Apple will send down a push notification to the iPhone saying, hey, hang up. So it closes the ports, and the MacBook Pro cannot communicate anymore with the iPhone, so the call finishes. And if you think about it, this is a really bad idea. It's a really bad design. First of all, which is what was interesting to me, is Apple is not even following their own recommendations. Apple says that Apple push notifications are not a reliable channel and should not be used for critical actions. What could be there more critical than actually hanging up the phone? So I thought that was very interesting. So how can we really exploit that? So if you have a man in the middle over UDP again, all you have to do is, while you make a call, is let that person hang up, and you are blocking the traffic from the victim to the Apple push notification server. That effectively means that I just hang up message it's never going to reach Apple, so it's never going to reach your iPhone. So you are never going to really hang up. But what is really happening is at the UI level for you, the pop-up that you hang up just goes away. The FaceTime, which is the application that handles this, closes. You can even look at the processes and it goes away. So everything happens as expected, just that you didn't hang up the phone. So let's look at a demo for that. 16 minutes, okay. So what you're going to see here, I'm going to put the sound up. So basically I have a Kali Linux with a classic ARP spoofing attack, right? There is not much more to it. And on the left side here with Google Hangouts, this is the attacker doing a call to the victim. This is the victim's iPhone, and on top I'm just showing the process that is opened up. So this is the victim now picking up in his computer, right? So we see that the icon on the left of FaceTime open, the process is there, and now the attacker is going to troll the victim. So I don't know if you guys hear it. I can't really, well, you guys hear it if we're a little quiet, I'm not sure what the sound. But basically you guys are seeing that there is sound coming into the MacBook Pro. That's why you hear it with such less quality, right? So what I'm doing now in my ARP, in my man in the middle is I'm stopping traffic to Apple push notification server. Now when I hang up, you see I just hang up, but the call is still ongoing. The process was killed, FaceTime app is gone, and the call is still going. I don't know what happened with the sound now. But basically, as you can see, for the user, everything happens, for the victim, everything happens as expected. Okay, we can dance to it, that's okay. And, but yeah, actually, it never hangs up the phone, which is the bad part here. All right, so we know now that we can actually, just by not allowing a specific packet to Apple push notification server, leave the call ongoing, so we can talk to still to the victim, but most importantly, we can mute ourselves and just listen and spy on them. So imagine this on business calls or something, a negotiation that you are doing, and you want to see what they say once you finish that really hard negotiation, for example. So, but another thing that you can block is this protocol supports multi-party calls. So basically, you are talking to your bank. It's asking you for your credit card number because you want to change some stuff. I call you, and you will get another pop. Hey, you want to pick up? So maybe the victim says, "Oh, wait a second, because someone is calling me." You switch to the caller, and I can prevent that from happening. But at the UI level, it still happens. So basically, you see that you are talking to the other person, but you are not. And I'm going to show you this in a demo. But this is very interesting because, again, we can combine both. Now what I can do, you will see that in the demo, is if I can fingerprint your traffic, and I know you are on a call. So I can give you a call, and then I can wait, say, hey, I'm sorry, I dialed the wrong number. Wait for the person to hang up. And so the call will not hang up, but it will disappear from the UI, so it will show him that he's talking to the other caller while he's still talking to me. Let's look at it in the demo. Oops. All right. Let's see if we can get the sound now. So basically, I'm going to skip a little bit over it in interest of time. All right. So this is the legit call. You see that up there, okay? So this is the victim picking up a legit call. And I'm going to mute it so you know that the legit call has no sound coming in, and the attacker is again going to troll the victim, right? So the attacker is now knows that there is an ongoing call, so it's going to call the victim. So you see that, oh, someone is calling me that I don't have the number. Wait a second. So we have the unknown caller, which is the attacker, and we have the legit call. So the attacker is going to troll again the victim. So what we see now, when we switch to the legit call, no sound. When we switch to the attacker's call, the music is there, right? This is expected. So what happens now when we again block that communication with our man in the middle to the Apple push notification server? I did the demo a little longer than I wanted to. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. I'm going to use my firewall, just flip that switch, and now there is no traffic going to the Apple push notification servers. What happens when I switch? You see, it's on the legit call, but still the sound from the attacker is going. So it says that you're talking to the legit caller while you are actually talking to the caller. But we can combine now with the hang up. So say, oh, okay, I don't want to talk to this guy. I don't know who he is. So I'm going to go back to my legit call, which is what I'm going to do now. So I'm talking to the attacker and say, I don't know who you are. I'm going to hang up. And there you go. It says that you are talking to the legit caller, but in reality, you are still talking to the attacker. Nice. So once we have that, now we have a number of vulnerabilities that we can use, right? But and this is interesting, and I reported it and all that. But it's interesting to think, how can we exploit this massively, right? And effectively, what we can do is we can open mics remotely, right? If we make a call to someone. So how will we do that to make a cheap do-it-yourself spy program? So our target is really routers and IoT devices. You can just use Shodan and get compromise a lot of routers. I mean, that's not part of the talk, but that's what you could do. So once you sit on the router, we know that we have this number of things that we can do. We can interrupt calls, we can impersonate callers, we can gather calls metadata. We know when they initiate, when they finish, and all that kind of stuff. We can fingerprint them. So what you will do on the router is, if you start to massively compromise routers, what you will do is you want to just look at the routers that have Apple devices. For that, you can look at the ARP table, look at the 3 first bytes which identify the vendor, and know if there are Apple devices there. And all you have to do is really to block the external traffic. So actually, routers have usually 2 interfaces. So you could just something as easy as killing the external interface traffic. That will already do, because the rest happens on the local network, right? And you only have to block the Apple push notification traffic. So, but we still need to call the victim, right? And we can do that actually with the old school war dialing. And actually what you could do is you can improve it a little bit more by doing, first you collect the BSSID, so you can use something like wiggle.net to physically locate it, the routers, and then you can actually focus on area codes. For example, I live in San Francisco, the area code is 408, so I only really have to brute force 7 digits, which is still a lot for calls, but something I noticed during the elections, we were getting a lot of calls from Democrats and a lot of calls from Republicans trying to vote for each other's presidents. So while it will be a spamming campaign, you still can use tools like Twilio for doing this war dialing. Nowadays, it's much easier than it used to be in the past. And the point of this is you control the routers, you start to make calls to a specific area that you know the routers are there because you used wiggle.net with the BSSID, and you start to correlate, you can fingerprint the call. So you make a call and you detect in which router the call came in, and so you now have a phone number for that router, and now you can go ahead and perform this attack because you own the router. So, closing remarks. I'm sorry that I was so fast over it. I wanted to be on time. So this is basically the timeline. It has been there since iOS 8, and I reported it, but there was some regression, so they fixed it again. But it should be all good now. I know there is a lot of people from Apple in the conference because I checked. So I would like to know how they fixed it, because I don't know. I didn't really check if they are still sending the message over Apple push notification server to hang up, which I think is not really a great idea, but let me know if you guys are around and want to let me know. And I always like to put a slide for further research in case you guys are interested. It will be interesting to just reverse the FaceTime app and find other stuff. I'm not good at reversing binaries, so this is something that could be done as well. Do crypto analysis on the protocol, that will be super interesting. You can have call relay support on other OS, just to annoy Apple, I guess. And then an interesting paper I found was that you could actually correlate the information by looking at the length of packets because this is stream cipher. And I actually noticed that when you mute, it always has 87 bytes and stuff like that. So there could be something interesting there. But thanks a lot for attending. And if you have any questions, more than happy to answer them.